Hello everyone, my name's Kole and welcome back to the channel. I hope your summer's going well and that you've been able to keep yourselves busy. I've been exceptionally busy, which is why it's been a few weeks since my last video. I'm trying to get out one video each and every week, but as you can see, I'm not doing very well with that. I also hope that everything records properly today. My graphics card's on the way out and it's causing some massive frame rate issues and has resulted in some distortion in my recordings. I have a new one ordered, but it's going to take a few days to get here, so it's not going to be a problem for very much longer. Today we're going to do another build log. We're going to take this Greek-style temple and we're going to turn it into ruins. I've actually sat down about 5 times and attempted to record this video that just outlines the build, but I've scrapped each and every one of them. There's a lot of technical terms for the different parts of the temple, but no matter what I've tried, each time I came across sounding pretentious, and I just wasn't happy with the results. So today I think I'll just show you the initial build, and then we'll head over to the placement world and we'll destroy it. This is a Greek-style temple. It's not modeled after anyone in particular. It features a peripteral floor design, which means it has 2 rows of ionic columns in the front, and then 1 row of ionic columns down the side. You can see I've built 2 versions, one with a shallow version here. This one's truer to form, and then this other one over here with a taller roof. This taller roof was done to accommodate a statue that I have on the inside. We're going to be dealing with the one with the shallow roof here in our placement world. So we're going to head over there right now, and I'll copy this over into the placement world using MC-Edit, and then I'll show you what my plan is. Okay, so I have the temple copied into our placement world here now. We're just a few hundred blocks away from the rest of the structures, just on the other side of this ridge that I've built. So as you can see here, we're in a swamp. I mentioned in my previous build log that when I'm building ruins, I like to think of a backstory. It just helps me with deciding how the ruins need to look. So 2,000 or 3,000 years ago when this temple was built, none of this swamp was here. So something's happened in those few thousand years, to cause this area to flood. So I think what we're going to do with this temple, and I'm not fully sure just yet, we're going to have to wait and see what happens as I start tearing it down. But I think we're going to have several major cracks that run through the building, and we're just going to cause the building to just kind of shift this way, shift and sink down, because when I look down through the water, I want to be able to see parts of the temple still sticking up. A lot of it's going to be destroyed and laying on the swamp bed, I guess you would call it. But I want a lot of it to be standing up as well. So I'm going to use World Edit to get rid of a lot of this water, just to make working a lot easier, and get rid of a lot of these trees too, to have some work area. Because with these Greek temples, there'd be a lot of area around them that would be built up for offerings and so on and so forth. So we had to think of that and think of what this area would have looked like 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. So there's going to be a lot of this is going to get removed. But it's going to come back kind of in the form of overgrowth and natural destruction, as opposed to like a war or something that has very specific explosive destruction. So I'm going to clear out this water, and then I'll kind of go over my plan just a little bit further in just a few seconds here. All right, so I have the water removed here and removed most of the trees on this other side of the temple here. And now that I see it, I'm going to just edit the plan for this building destruction from what I had earlier. I'm still going to break it off into 2 or 3 chunks and shift it this way and down into the seabed. But I think what I want water to cover like this part of the temple right here. It's going to remain mostly intact. There's going to be some holes through the roof and some columns and sets that are missing. But for the most part, it's going to be mostly intact. But what I want the water to be flowing over top of the stylobate. That's the base of the temple here that everything sits on with all the stairs leading up to it. So I want water to flow over top of that just to kind of give it that sunken, submerged look. So I'm going to take care of that right now. This is actually the next day from when I was recording. I had some problems with some of the mods that I was using. I'm using Forge, and then I'm using World Edit inside of Forge to do all of my adjustments and such here. But there's a tool that I use called CUI, and for whatever reason, it was conflicting with the brush tools that I had. CUI is what gives me that red grid that you've probably seen in a few of my videos. But for whatever reason, it was causing the brushes to not have the reach they were supposed to have. I would have to be, like, if I wanted to lay down some dirt using these shovels, using a brush command, which I'll show you in a few seconds, I actually had to be right on top of it, which doesn't work when you're trying to do like spheres of dirt that are 4 and 5 blocks in radius. So I had to get rid of it. So we're going to be working without it today. Hopefully when the mods get upgraded to Minecraft 1.10, it won't be an issue, but today we're going to be flying a little bit blind. So what I've done here so far, we're going to be copying the temple. We want it to be down 3 blocks from its current position. So I selected the bottom, the block over on this far side, and then this block over here on this side. And then we're going to do an expand command to get it to go all the way up to the top. And then we're going to delete it and then move down 3 blocks. So I'm going to show you quickly how I do that. So we just go into the terminal commands, and we type expand, and we're going to go, let's do 30 blocks in the upwards direction. And then I'm just going to pick a point. Because we're going straight down, it doesn't really matter where we position ourselves because we're just going vertically up and down. So I'm going to stand just right on this block here. I'm going to do a cut command. It's going to get rid of the temple, and I go down 1, 2, 3. To some of these blocks just so you can kind of see it pop back in. And then I do a paste command. And that puts our temple in. As you can see, it's now 3 blocks lower. So this will allow me when I reflood this area. Well, maybe I need to go down 1 more. Yeah, because this puts me right at sea level. Okay, yeah, so I'm probably going to have to go down just 1 more block. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. It doesn't give me a whole lot of area to work with underneath here to break this off and shift it down. But I think I can come in through here with some brushes and just remove some of this excess stuff. So we'll correct this. We'll move it down just 1 more block. So we'll go back to our original area right here. We'll do undo, and that gets rid of the structure, and go down 1 more block, and we'll paste it back in. Okay, so I'm going to do some slight terraforming just in this area here and possibly a little bit over here. And I'll come back and I'll show you what I got. I've done just a little bit of terraforming here so far because I want this part of the swamp to be sunken down a bit because this is where a large chunk of this temple is going to be living. And I figured I should probably show you how these brushes work. So I'm using 2 brushes. 1 brush to get rid of blocks, and then another brush to kind of smooth some things out. So I'll just quickly show you what those commands are. So this first brush here, this diamond shovel, I'm going to be assigning the air to be placing blocks of air. So the command's pretty straightforward. It's just brush. It's going to be in the shape of a sphere. I'm going to be using the air block. So I could either type in air or just use 0. I've been doing this for a while before the blocks actually had names and they just had item IDs. And or block numbers, whatever they're called, and so I have most of them memorized. So a brush sphere with air, and we're going to use a radius of 2. The second brush, the diamond shovel, is going to be doing brush, and we're going to do a smooth brush, also in 2x2. I find when I'm trying to do delicate motions, or not delicate motions, when I'm trying to do where I don't want to get rid of huge chunks of land, I kind of want to take it step by step. I find 2 seems to be the sweet spot. 1 doesn't really do very much, I find. It's just a lot more wasted clicking. So what I'll do is I need to expand the area just off into this way just a little bit, and also a little bit back over in here, and then try to make it just a bit more natural. So from a distance, I can just kind of click in an area where I want, and I'm right-clicking, and this gets rid of the blocks. And we'll go a little bit up over here too. Not too much. I don't want it to be as deep as this area here. So we'll just get rid of a little bit like that. And then I come in with the gold shovel here, and I just kind of hold it down and hit smooth. So this is smoothing using any block. You can set it to smooth just using grass or just using stone or something like that. But right now we just want to do any block. We're going to come in here afterwards, and we're going to use our shovel, or sorry, our main wand here, which is the wooden axe. To go through, and we're going to replace all the diorite and granite and clay and all that stuff. We're just going to replace it back again with dirt. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time here smoothing this out, just making it look a little bit more natural. And when I have that done, I'll come back and show you what we got. And this is what the terraforming looks like once I finished it here. As you can see, when I was doing the smoothing, I caught a little bit of the temple corner. That's okay, because we're going to be getting rid of this chunk of the temple anyway, so we don't need to worry that it actually copied down that. We can just go in and remove that either by hand or using our wand. The seabed here is also not perfectly smooth. Or not perfectly smooth, but naturally looking like it does over there. And that's okay, because we're going to be putting the temple ruins down in there, so it doesn't need to be perfect. So now what we need to do is we need to take this corner of the temple and we need to get rid of it and then move it down over into here. So we do that using the wand tool. So we're going to take this. Oh, did that not do it? There we go. So we're going to take this position here, and then we're going to go down to, I think actually about here. We'll do it just one more block in. So it's a little bit hard to see because we don't have the grid, but essentially we're going to be taking from this block here all the way up to that first one that we touched over there. And we're going to be moving it. And because we're not moving it just vertically, we're going to be moving it across all three axes, or axes, I guess is the plural. I'm not sure. We need to get ourselves a single point of reference. So I always use red wool as my markers just to make things a little bit easier. So we're going to use this block here that will stand out. I'll show you that in just a second. And we know we want to copy it down here. So I think this should be good if we put it right here. Yeah, I think that'll be enough. It's probably about 10 blocks deep that we copied. So if we stand right here, we can do a cut. And then now if we go over here and stand on this red clay, because we're using the same reference point, when we paste it in, we'll get ourselves about 10 blocks deep. So let's go ahead and paste it in. Yeah, that worked good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually, that was close, not 10. So yeah, so this corner of the temple has now been pasted in, and we can go ahead and start working on some of the ruins. We're going to... there is going to be a lot of ruin. We don't need to get rid of all of this clay or all of this quartz right here, because it's going to be a lot of the ruins. Because a lot of this portion of the structure is going to be collapsed, kind of flowing downwards like this. So we'll use our brush tools like we did before to make some of those holes as well. So I'm going to do a bit more work on roughing this up a little bit, and I'll show you what I have in just a few more minutes. All right, so I've taken some time to mess up this portion of the temple a little bit. Before we have a look at it, though, I just want to address something quickly. I understand that if a marble structure were to slide down an embankment, no matter how slow, it wouldn't still be standing, even to this degree. I get that. I'm taking a little bit of creative liberty here just because it's Minecraft, and I think the end result's going to look really good. So I understand that this is not realistic, but that's not really the full effect that I'm going with. I usually realism to kind of help guide along what I'm building, but it's not to be 100% realistic is not my end goal. So I just gone through and I didn't use any brushes on this. I just went through manually and destroyed some things. So we have some parts missing from the metapiece up here and the capital up top. Most of the capital is actually pretty much removed. I've removed a couple columns, both in part and in whole. And as you can see here with this column here, I've left some of the pieces kind of floating off this way into the swamp. And with this one, there would be a column right here, and it's partially remaining right here. The water level is going to be right about here. So only the top part is actually going to be above water. So you're not actually going to see those pieces unless you were to go underneath. But I think it's important to include those in the build just to, I don't know, in case you ever do go down there. I just think it's important just to pay attention to those small little details. So I think this is mostly complete here. When I do flood it back again, I'm going to add in some vines and some leaves and such just to make it like the algae and other things are growing on it. That'll just help with the effect as well. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to do some significant roughing up of the rest of the temple here. So I'm going to play around with it a little bit because I'm not 100% sure how I want to approach this. So just need to take some time. I need to think about it, and I'll come back to you with my plan. All right, so I've removed a significant portion of the back part of the temple here, just to kind of give me an idea of what I'm working with. And I think what I'm going to do is, when I get rid of this wall here and bring the water back in, it's going to come up to this level right here. So I think what I want to do is I want to get rid of the columns and such through this area right here. I'd started to do a little bit, but before I hit record, but I'm just going to explain. I'm going to continue with that plan, and then I'll go back and remove it. Because I think this corner of the temple to remain semi-intact, and we're going to get rid of most of this other stuff that's in here. I am going to go through and put significant portions of the ruins down over in this part, and spilling further down over into here. It's not quite there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll rough this area up just a little bit more. I'm using the 1x1 airbrush to do that. Because I'm doing kind of some fine detail work, it's okay to use the 1x1 brush, but as you can see, it doesn't really get rid of the blocks in useful way. It just kind of leaves some just really weird patterns when it's done. So I don't use it a whole lot unless I'm trying to get rid of it. Unless I'm doing some fine detail work where I need to remove more blocks than just kind of doing it by hand. So anyway, I'm going to rough this up and I'll come back to you and show you what I have. So here's my progress on the back portion of the temple. As you can see, I've gone through and I've roughed it up a fair bit and then added in some quartz blocks and such throughout the bottom. I'm going to be adding, I think, a bit more. But remember, if this, with this temple being kind of sunken down into the swamp, a lot of the swamp would have kind of overtaken the temple, so there'd be dirt over top of the blocks, and so a lot of it would actually be fairly hidden. So, just some details I want to point out here. We're gonna have a pile of rubble, right about here, and that's gonna come up pretty much right at water level. I need to make it just a little bit higher and a little bit bigger, but we're gonna have a pile of rubble just kind of sticking up and pointing up right there, which will look kind of neat. And then we have parts of the wall that are still up. In here as well. So a few more areas that I need to rough up, but I don't want to do it all right now because I need to figure out what I'm doing with the rest of the temple to figure out what degree of ruins this part needs to be in. But I'm pretty happy with this so far. Again, I just went through it with the remove brush, then did some smoothing, and then for the very fine work I went in manually and destroyed things block by block. So looking at the rest of the building here, because we have the swamp running in over here on this side of the temple, and this side of the temple is solid ground, we're going to be destroying the temple kind of along a diagonal. Not perfectly diagonal, but just kind of along a diagonal. So I do want a portion of the capital to remain visible. I want this part of the temple to be pretty much intact, and then starting probably about here, I'm not sure. We'll kind of just destroy it kind of along this diagonal path as well. I think. We'll see what we'll lay this down, then we'll have a look and see what it looks like. I think that's a bit too thick. Yeah, we'll try a bit steeper of an angle. Or sorry, less steep of an angle. Except for at the end here. I do want that to point up just a little bit. Yeah, I think that'll work, and I can kind of pull it in just a little bit right here just so that it's not as smooth. So what I'll do is I'll rip out this back portion of the temple, and I'll come back to you with an update of my progress. So this is where we're at very roughly after going through and removing most of the rest of the temple. I still have a lot of work that I need to do. I need to get rid of these floating blocks here, and then I also need to decide what I'm doing with this portion of the temple, and then of course go throughout this portion of the swamp and add in some rubble. I like how this part over on this side turned out. I like that this part of the capital remains mostly intact, and then it kind of goes off and thins out and then tapers downward. So I do need to do some cleaning up to make that effect just look a little bit better, but I like how it's turned out so far. So I'm going to take care of that right now, and I'll bring you back, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, and here's what the temple looks like now that I've gone through and removed a significant amount of detail to the structure to make it look more like ruins. So as you can see, I've kind of left a lot of the capital in place and then allowed it to taper off over into the sides. I've included a lot of detail down in here, such as dirt going in and covering a lot of the marble, as well as columns that are downed. And I've removed some columns and put in some holes up here in the capital as well. So I'm pretty happy with this so far. I'm probably going to have to go through and remove a few more blocks, maybe here on this side. I'm not sure. I may leave those intact. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what it looks like. Anyway, I'm going to go through now, and I'm going to put the water back in place. And then I'm going to go through and throw in some vegetation. And the next time I see you, we'll go through the final product. So let me just put the water back in right now. So we're going to do that with two commands. We're going to use a replace command. So I've already used my wand to select two regions, this corner over here and this corner right here, and then I've expanded it downwards. As you can see, I've gone through and replaced all the clay and set this back to dirt just so that it doesn't have to update manually. So we'll go through and we're going to replace block 98, which is the stone bricks that are around the outside, and we're going to replace that with water. And then we're going to go through and replace air with water. It'll take a bit to update. And there we go. It's flooded most of the structure, and we'll just have to go through and have a look at it. One thing we'll have to look and see, as you can see here with these stairs here, so the base of the columns, it does kind of leave these block marks here. So I'm going to see if I can cover that up with some lily pads or some other detail. I'm not sure. I may have to go through and remove those manually, or at least change them out just with a regular block of quartz. We'll see what that looks like. I'm not too keen on that. Anyway, I'll have to figure that out. So the next time I come back, we'll do a final tour of what the structure looks like, because I'm going to go in now. I'm going to add in a bunch of more detail, a bunch of lily pads, and some more of these swamp trees and some vines. So I'll see you in just a few minutes. All right, and here's the finished project. As you can see, I've gone through and I've added a lot of vegetation. I used vines, and I also used the oak leaf blocks for some thicker looking vines. I also used the tree brush command to add in some of the swamp trees throughout the center of the temple, and also along this little ridge right here. That's similar to what they were before I removed out all of the water. Overall, I'm very happy with how this project turned out. It was not only a lot of fun to build initially, but it was a lot of fun to come down and destroy it here tonight. I do wish that there was some more variation in the quartz blocks, similar to what you find with the stone brick blocks, so like cracked stone brick and moss-covered stone brick. But that's nothing that a texture pack can't fix. Anyway, I hope you like what you see, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.